Hi, it's Paul from Wolf Software Systems, and we've got a new version of WolfStack out. What is WolfStack? So we've built this thing called CodeWolf, so this is all a bit roundabout, but anyway, hear me out. We built this thing called CodeWolf, which is a very complex piece of software that will actually analyze and document millions of lines of clients' code, and we helps translate it into different languages or platforms or whatever. So CodeWolf needs really fast platforms to run on, and our tests with things like the normal Proxmox and stuff like that, it was just a bit slow. So we wrote our own Rust-based, completely Rust-based platform, and that's what WolfStack is. Now, to install, you obviously need Linux machines and Linux servers to install it. If you go to wolfstack.org, you can actually find the documentation. It's a one-line install, and it'll install itself and WolfNet. Now, the reason it installs WolfNet is, so what actually, I love writing software where I'm actually fixing all the problems and irritation that I have with other software. So one of the irritations that I have with other platforms is setting up the networking is a complete nightmare. So what we did with WolfStack is when it installs its own network, which you can use as a local network. So what I've done here, so I've actually got a 3-machine WolfStack cluster running. There's a conversation going on about so a CodeWolf customer actually, and they're doing a presentation. So this is a 3-machine cluster, and I'm actually on my laptop is one of the machines. Now, the beauty of it is that you can. So my laptop, I was obviously sitting in the office earlier, and WolfNet is able to connect you, is to able to know whether you're local or whether you're remote, and you can set up like a VPN connection into the network. So I'm able to use the WolfStack dashboard here. Now I'm going to show you what you can do with it. Sorry about this flipping recording thing that we can't move anymore. I don't know why they've changed it so you can't move it, but you can't. So, but anyway, so this is not part of WolfStack. So we've got Docker containers. We can set up Dockers. We can set up LXC containers, and I've got another one here. In fact, that's running already. We can set up virtual machines, and I've got Windows running here, and I'll show you how fast it is when it's running on Rust. You can set up storage. We've got a thing called Wolf Disk, which is a component that you can install, which it provides shared storage. Because that's one of the big issues with Linux is that the storage sharing is a bit not really as good as it perhaps should be. But with Wolf Disk, you can actually set up replicated file stores, and they are file stores. So this is the other thing, is that some of these virtualization platforms, that the problem is you have to like install an ISO onto the actual machine. Now, if you know anything about renting servers in the cloud, is sometimes they just don't give you the facility to use a custom ISO. So with this, you just throw Debian 13, Ubuntu, we don't really care, Fedora, this is Fedora we're running on here, and you just throw it on there, and then you just run a one-line script on the server, and it'll literally install everything it needs. So there's some really cool little things there, and then you've got your networking here, so you can see what all the network is going on, and you can see that it says invited peer, unreachable. That's because of the current network status, because I'm using this called WolfNet. Now, WolfNet is the built-in networking platform that CodeWolf sets up. So actually you can see that there's all kinds of details here, and it's running, and yeah, it's kind of cool. So that because I'm remote, I can't see that's actually me. But I can actually still see these two chappies here. In fact, the beautiful thing about WolfNet is, of course, that you can, in terminal, in fact, I'm going to be a bit more cheeky as well. There's lots of terminals built into this, so I'm just going to pick this one and run a terminal on this one. And I can go Wolf. So this is a web browser terminals, WolfNet CTL, list servers, and it'll actually list all the servers that it can see. And so yeah, so you can actually access the web now. I'm really hoping that it hasn't turned off my my recording controls, but anyway, I'm going to carry on in the hope that it hasn't. So I've got a few containers here. I've got a Docker container, and I can just run that by clicking on here. And you can run remote containers. So if this was running on a different machine, I can run it on one of the more remote machines and view it. So now running the container, I can just click the terminal button, or I could connect to it. So this is a Docker container. Okay. And I'm going to show you. So let's just, I can leave that running actually. It's not going to hurt, is it? So let's go to LXCs. I've already got an LXC container running that I just leave running all the time again. I can log out into that. It's a Debian 13 container. As you can see, it's already set up. This is the other thing about this, is when you set up a container, you'll see a Docker container. So if I want to set up a Docker container, I can just search for a repository like that, and it pulls down the different things, and you can just choose the repository and then create a container rather than all that fiddling around. I don't like fiddling around. I like to just do it. Same with here. Create a container. It'll say what sort of container do you want to say cloud. You can use Debian. You could just type it in, and then you can create your container based off of that. Very easy. It automatically works out the next WolfNet IP address. So you start off, if you're a beginner with this sort of thing, it just takes away a lot of the things you have to fiddle around with other platforms, and it will give you like a container. Now what I've actually got a Windows VM here with only 4 CPUs and 8 gig of RAM, and I'm just going to start it for you, and you can see it's going to start now. There you go. So it started now, and I'll pop this open, and you can see Windows running in a virtual machine on WolfStack, and you see how fast it is with only it's only got 8 gig of RAM. Just going to quickly close that. Sorry. So it only has 8 gig of RAM, and yet Windows is running really quite nicely in a virtual machine on this server, and it runs just as fast actually if I remotely access it. And it's got built-in VNC, so you don't even need to. Just going to shut it down. It's got built-in VNC, so you don't even need to mess around with it. And you can actually use a normal VNC viewer to access. If you don't know what any of that is, doesn't matter. You just go over here, click this button, and it'll pick it up. And then you can just power it off. Don't want to really leave it on. Start, shut down. There you go. And of course you can configure it and everything like that. So, and there's a clone. You can see the logs and everything like that. And obviously with LXC containers, you can clone them and do all kinds of replication. Same with Docker as well. You can see there's a few Docker containers that I had setting up, so I can use those to create new containers. I did actually close WhatsApp, but it still seems to be notifying me. So I've got 3 servers here. I can look at them. The servers all have a really nice dashboard for each individual server, and you can see the sort of processor and RAM usage. That's where we were running the Windows VM, and the network I went through the roof. And so you can actually see what's going on, and then you've got your main dashboard, the data center dashboard, which shows a map of where things are, and then it shows all the servers. We only got 3 in this cluster, and it's just really lovely to set up. It's much more easy. Now there are some other components, so if you go to components, there is quite a few little different things that you can install. We recommend MariaDB databases, and partly because we're partners with MariaDB, but we just do really love what they're doing, and it's just such a vibrant community of people working with it. So we've got WolfNet, you can see that's running, and there's docs buttons, you can click on those. Wolf Proxy is a load balancer. WolfServe is a replacement for Apache 2. This is all written in Rust. The whole lot of it's written in Rust, so it makes it a lot quicker. Apache has a response time of about 100 milliseconds, and ours is about 10, and you can run PHP on it. WolfDisk is running here because we actually have a shared. So this machine is in the office, and it's actually running WolfDisk. So that's what that is, and basically we've got 2 clients on it and 1 WolfDisk server. Now we could have more WolfDisk servers, and they all replicate the code. WolfScale is our database clustering. Our database clustering tool, and basically you install. So if you want to create a 3-node database cluster, you install 3 MariaDB servers on obviously different servers. Hopefully, you could, if you wanted to try it out, you could actually create 3 containers and just install MariaDB on it, and then you install WolfScale on the top, and then WolfScale connects over WolfNet, and what it allows it to do is we use a kind of laser. There's actually a whole big documentation section here on the WolfStack, and you can actually read up about WolfScale and how it works. And we've kind of got rid of the whole quorum thing. We don't do that anymore because we want to avoid split brain. And anybody who's had a split brain situation with a database cluster, it's quite frightening. It's basically where the cluster split into two, and there's writes going to both sides of the cluster. And that's why, in my opinion, I see a lot where people just go they just set up one write to the whole cluster and then they read from all others. Well, we do that, but we have like a leader, and the leader's like the lowest number in the cluster. So if the leader dies, the next one becomes the leader. So there's no real voting going on. We're not trying to we don't have two machines trying to vote to be leader. So we get around this whole issue. But that's the sort of architecture and engineering that goes into our systems. So yeah, I will talk a bit about CodeWolf. So CodeWolf is really interesting, and we're currently using all kinds of different types of servers, IBM Power and different servers to run it. And obviously, if you're interested, if you've got lots of legacy code you need translating, one of our projects is about 1.3 million files, I think, and they've got, and you, over 20, when you've got 20 or 30 years of code, it might all work, but no one's really sure about some parts of it because nobody's looked at it and nobody dares touch it, and you end up with this monolith of thing that actually could probably run about 50 times faster than something else, but nobody can really move forward with it. And as things like COBOL programmers, we get less and less COBOL programmers, and there's a lot of legacy COBOL. So part of what CodeWolf does is allows us to actually properly document that code, and properly using RAG searching and vector databases, we're able to really work out and really help companies and big and small to migrate over. But we have to have WolfStack to actually run CodeWolf because it needs to be really, really fast. And some other things. Don't I don't know who's called me. So I think that's our virtual world. Somebody's called. Oh no, it's not there. Oh, somebody's called me. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that. So what I'm going to say is the last thing is don't install WolfStack into a Proxmox container. You can install it on Proxmox VMs. It's that. I'm just going to turn it off. So you can install it on Proxmox VMs, but it is a bit pointless. The best way to do is just get a few bare metal machines, or you could probably, you can use Google Cloud or whatever you like, and you just run this one line on each machine. You might have to go into your WolfNet section on each server and just make sure this is all set up correctly, so they can see each other. And so you can add a peer, so you can add the peers and actually put the details in. So you can do a LAN peer or an internet peer, which means you have basically run a piece of code on the remote machine and it will connect them over the internet. It's perfectly secure. It's military grade connections, and then you can basically build a cluster. You can have a cluster in Australia talking to a cluster in America, talking to a cluster in Germany. It doesn't really matter. And another thing to mention about WolfScale with the database clustering is that it has the power to one of the issues with traditional database clusters is the slowest node is the speed of your whole cluster, whereas with the WolfScale cluster is the way it's engineered means that it doesn't matter basically. So the leader's obviously pretty fast, and you're sending data. That leader goes down, it goes to the next one, but the replication happens so that if you had, let's say you had 3 in the UK nodes and you've got a node in Australia, the Australian node's going to be pretty slow. But it doesn't matter. So you can do like a read-only, like a just a backup node, so no one ever reads from it, and it just gets queued. The data just gets queued across, and it'll keep it up to date. There's lots and lots of stuff there. If you're a company and you're interested in talking to us about our engineering and our tech and how we can help you, certainly with legacy code, with legacy software, with clustering with this new fast Rust technology, then we'd be really interested. If you just want to try it on your home lab, please do. You go to wolfscale.org. You can download the stuff and just install it on your home lab or your business and just try it out. We do have a Patreon. and there is a link to it, I think, back on the data center page. I think there's somewhere there is a little link to it there. So we'd love to have you supporting us and joining our Discord and getting involved. I hope that's helpful. Our company website is wolf.uk.com. WolfStack is wolfstack.org, and that's all I'm going to say, really. I suppose just got to work out how to stop this. Oh, and there we go. Maybe I'll just close that bloody thing down.